This is the Simpit. I'm your host, Shaun Cole, but the real star of today's show is Billy Strange, sitting here with me on a Friday for the Pitstop. How you doing, Billy?
Hey, we've made it. We are still alive on your internet.
We are still alive on my internet, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I could forget. Because today is sketchy day. My internet has been going out all week. I've got service coming on Monday, which means this show could come to a crashing halt at any moment. So right now, before we even get started, get out there, do some racing, have a great weekend. I hope everybody has fun, and be sure to let us know. Yeah, but if it comes to an end, that will be the end of the show, chances are, because my internet, when it goes out, it's for at least 10 to 15 minutes. So that's my disclaimer. Also with us today, Brandon Waters. How you doing, Brandon?
Hey guys, how are you?
I'm pumped up. I think I'm in one of my spaz modes.
Me too.
I've got adrenaline going through my out my ears at this point in time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Probably so, doctor.
Yeah, I just got so many crazy things going on and such a tight schedule. And up on the screen here, I just want to talk about this one of the things that's been going on. That is me with Todd. And we talk about our Discord, our patron group, our community within the community for the Simpit and Billy Strange Racing. And it's just a really tight-knit group of guys. And the reason this photo exists is because the other day, and this is all arranged by Brandon, there was a whole exchange of products between our group. And this wasn't just one guy selling a thing on eBay to another guy, but it was like friends amongst friends. Todd is a truck driver, and he came to Southern California and picked up a load of things that he was then taking to Salt Lake City, where Brandon was going to come down from Idaho to pick up some things for him, and then that load was going to keep going to New York so that it could get in the hands of our other friend, Dan, all because Todd is such an awesome guy and being the common denominator of our group. And just, I don't know, it struck me how cool it is, because it's like sim racing is so online and so removed from friendships. And yet what we're developing here is all about friendships. And it's been cool. And it made my week on what was a very difficult week for me, with canceled stream after canceled stream because of internet problems and computer problems. And, I'm just, Monday, may everything become normal again, you know. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. I guess my long-winded intro there. Billy, what have you been up to this week?
How's the man? Yeah, I've been in preparation. Well, okay. We were talking about this before the show. I've had a bunch of canceled projects that I started. I've been on a stock car kick, and so I got NASCAR Racing 2003 working, and then all of a sudden it stopped working, and I can't get it to work anymore. It just, every time I do anything, it's now fatal error. I've tried uninstalling. That won't even work. So that's been fun. And then again, in preparation for Dirt Rally 2.0 that comes out today. For those that have pre-ordered the deluxe edition, the standard edition comes out on the 26th. But I did some driving in Dirt Rally, Dirt 4, WRC7, just to kind of, for me, I have to get the chops back up. I'm not very good at jumping into rally right away. So I had to kind of get my chops back up, and although I'm not spectacular at it, I enjoy doing the rally stuff. And so, yeah, I finally, little story. Okay, story time.
You get the mic.
I preloaded. I went ahead and bought the deluxe edition. Preloaded it. Saw that it went live last night, my time at 6 p.m. And I don't know if a patch got installed or not, because a patch hasn't been installed since I've been playing it. But then I had to go. I was making dinner, and then I had to go to band practice. So I had to wait through all that. And literally at band practice, like every once in a while, it's all Dirt Rally 2.0. Dirt Rally 2.0. Come back home and get to Dirt Rally 2.0. So I get home and I try it, and I'm going to ask you first, since you got a pre-release copy. I know you, at least on your stream, you seemed fairly positive on a lot of the aspects, but what, having some time to digest that, what do you think? And just, I know you've only played a small portion of it, but
I think I said it at one point during the stream, and this is the other thing I wanted to say. Brandon and I actually had a whole conversation. It's like, as a reviewer, or anybody, I think there's a phase where you're in that placebo time where you tend to like things initially, unless it's just horrible, because it's new. It's a new flavor, a new taste, a new,
Sure.
and so you're so excited by a new UI to navigate through if it's a decent UI, and so I believe with that placebo effect, it's really hard for me to like really put strong opinions on how it compares physics-wise from one to another. I'm really jealous that you actually got to go run some Dirt 4 and some WRC7 on the same day. I'm like, because that's exactly what I would have needed to really do that, and then back to Dirt Rally 2.
Right.
I had a lot of fun playing it. So when I look at it just purely as a Simcade title, which I can come back to, but when I look at it as a Simcade title and having not played any Dirt Rally stuff in a while, it was like, oh, this is great. This is exactly the change of flavor that I needed right now just to have some fun. And it really totally accomplished that. Driving off the mountain, flipping the car. It's like, I don't really get to do that kind of stuff much. So yeah, I had a lot of good time, but it was very obvious to me right away that I was playing a Codemasters title. And I'm probably going to make some enemies here with that statement. But at this point in time in the world of Sim, I just feel everything that Codemasters makes is tier 2 if you're putting it on that Sim scale. And so it was just, yes, it was rally, but I'm like amazed. Either I'm the most gifted rally driver on earth, or wow, that they make it really easy to get a dirt car around a 12-foot wide track.
Oh, we've got some donations there.
Oh, let me get that.
Area. Thank you.
Let the revs go. Yes, awesome.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
Very kind. Thank you very much.
So yeah, but with that said about the Simcade title and being that tier 2 level Sim, I feel that those are also the spot that's a lot of fun to play. The career mode becomes the priority, not the competition model, so to speak, but the online. I mean, the career mode becomes part of the game, like deeply layered into the game. I didn't get deep into that, but I'm like, okay, well, that's something I can expect of the title, I hope. So yeah, I mean, my initial thoughts are where it was fun, but people are immediately, and this is going to be another can of worms, started saying, is it the next Richard Byrne Rally? And I'm just thinking, to me, Richard Byrne Rally is sort of like the iRacing of rally cars. It's like, okay, well, and I mean that in a very loosely worded way, but I mean, I feel that if you are sitting there asking that question, it means that you hold Richard Burns as this sacred thing in your heart.
Right, and nothing's going to live up to that.
Nothing's going to live up to that until it truly is like the next just, full-blown attempt at a sim, not a tier 2 Simcade title. So yeah, anybody who asks that question, gosh, if you went into it in that mindset, I think you'd be horribly disappointed. And the same complaints, short stages, the limited runoff, which seems to have increased. But yeah, I with that said, I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I streamed for an hour and a half. Every minute of it I loved. I was going to stream the very next day, but my internet went out. So it was like, no, I was pumped up and had a good time with that game. But it is what it is.
Sure.
That's fair.
No, I mean, it makes sense to me. I mean, I was just curious.
What about you?
Because
you did but you did what I'm jealous of. You then got to go back to the past and try Dirt Rally and WRC, which had to have been a little bit better than just a placebo effect of an hour and a half of fun.
Right. So I got home, fired it up, and number one, I had the folks in my community vote for what they wanted, how they wanted me to cover Dirt Rally 2.0. So I thank all the people that are that are subscribed to Billy Strange Racing, and they got to vote on what they wanted to see from me first. So I have a first impressions video coming out later today, which actually is turning into a mini review of sorts, because I say this as I'm hooked on there we go. I started out controls, easily mappable, probably the easiest mappable controls I've had in a Codemaster game, which was really nice because I've had some really bad experiences. Started playing it. First thing I noticed, what I did was I saw a bunch of people play career mode, so I went to the other side in free play, and you can do custom championships, but it has this really cool rally history thing, and it shows old video. It's really neat. And you work your way through all these classic old rally cars, which I thought was really cool. So you start with the Lancia Fulvia, and that's just okay. We have a problem with force feedback. I don't know what you felt, and I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if I got the patch because I wasn't paying attention. I left Steam up with that available, so it could have updated at any time before I actually got to play it. I'm not sure. The force feedback is probably the worst thing I have played in a modern racing title in years. This is not a knock on the physics.
Is this the new earmuff game?
No, because there's things that I really, really like that I actually disagree with you on a little bit. But the force feedback is so numb, and I play with the sliders. I'm moving everything. Every time I got in a car, I'm moving the sliders, trying to find like a nice sweet spot. And everything just makes it different versions of heavy, if that makes sense. The only time you feel anything is when you cross these cattle grates, the cattle crossings.
Right.
And then the force feedback comes alive and it's like, brrr. It never does anything else. It rumbles every slight bit every once in a while, but it's not giving you anything. And
meanwhile, you're thinking, I'm off-road. You know, this should be like...
So here's the misnomer. But see, there's the problem is, you're not going to get the same force feedback out of a dirt car that you will a car that you're driving on tarmac. Because especially if you're using the front tires to drive, you're going to lose a lot of the feeling out of the front end, right? So I think that is a little bit of a misnomer. People are like, oh, it needs to have amazing force feedback. Well, you're not going to feel a ton in the wheel, but you will feel weight transfer and a couple things. But realistically, in a dirt car, you're not going to feel a ton in the front end. But if you're on tarmac, you should feel the front end load up. That's where you should feel things happen. But this is numb across the board. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what car you pick. And I literally grabbed a car from each category last night to get footage. So I played it for 3.5 hours last night. Played till 2:30, 3 o'clock this morning. And it's just flat. It's so flat and so bland. It's just weird.
Could you tell when you were in a front wheel versus rear wheel versus all-wheel drive car?
Yes, I could.
So there's something going on. We might be live again.
And dead and back and dead and back and dead. Oh.
I think we're back. All right. Well, okay. We survived one hiccup. We'll see how that holds up.
Okay, so anyway, that force feedback was the first thing I noticed, but force feedback is not a deal breaker to me. It's just something I noticed. Because we know how I feel about force feedback. I'm not a huge force feedback guy. I just found it striking because I had heard other streamers say it was pretty good. And I was just like, this is not good. Anyway, so I started going through the cars. Front wheel drive cars they're just okay. But I tell you what, the second I got to a rear wheel drive car, the game came alive. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, it drives really, really well. And it's very intuitive. So there were things with Dirt Rally and Dirt 4 that I wasn't a fan of. And part of it was sometimes Dirt 4 I'm going to leave out because that was just bad. But Dirt Rally has this thing where sometimes the cars feel a little light, and sometimes they're a little too easy to slow down, or sometimes when you get them sideways, they just kind of sit there. Where this feels more intuitive to me about what I know from racing on dirt in real life, it slides further, I feel, than Dirt Rally, but there's more finesse involved to gather the car back up, if that makes sense.
Right.
So there's more inertia, I feel, with the cars.
Sure. I could feel when I was in a front-wheel drive car, I could feel the car goes sideways. Well, I could feel the wheels turn, and then the car really failing to react until those turned wheels actually gain traction in that direction. In other words, their pull overpowered the G-force weight pulling it outside. And that was very distinct to me. And on the flip side, the same thing on the rear wheel drive. I would feel the ass of the car come around, and then it wasn't until the traction caught up, but you could dramatically feel the difference.
Like you could play, you felt like you were a little more in control, and that's what in real life, that's kind of how I feel on racing dirt. Like there's a point where you can control it. Now there's obviously a point of no return, just like everything, and it does have that. Sometimes you just go in too hot and you just freaking sail it off into the bushes. But I thought that was really good. I like the inertia. I like the weight feeling of the cars. So I think some people are going to grasp this as it might, in points it feels a little easier than Dirt Rally, but in some aspects it feels a little harder than Dirt Rally. So it really depends on the situation. It's very interesting, and I actually like it. I like how you can really tell the differences between the cars. So I started doing the rear wheel drive stuff, and then I jumped to, my God, the Group B cars. I have not had any racing game, sim or otherwise, make my jaw literally go like, I'm like, holy crap. I mean, I'm running it. You're going so fast. It was literally taking me aback.
Uh-huh.
I ran the 205 at Poland, is one of my favorite locations out of all of these. And I'm flying, and it is literally, I am on the edge, but I am literally jaw dropped racing through there. It was so awesome. It is so cool.
So in that car,
it's incredible.
When your co-driver, when he says jump, in that car it actually means air, right?
There's like a whole lot going on there, man. And the tarmac feels better. It's not amazing like we would compare it to one of our regular sims, but I think it is improved. The hard part is the force feedback is so numb that it doesn't, you know what I'm saying? It's hard to give a correct analysis for me on what it's doing on the tarmac, but I think it feels better because it seems better at least. And then, like I said, I'm going to get to more detail in my first impressions, but the big thing I want to point out is there are things that I really, really like in this title. I really do. There are things that I think it's doing really, really well, and it mainly pertains to the way the cars drive. I like the stages. I like the differences in between the cars. I think it's got some really, the UI is actually nice. But there is one thing that nobody talked about, and I just don't know if it wasn't noticeable or wasn't apparent, or maybe it wasn't implemented yet. You have to connect to RaceNet, not just like in Dirt Rally when it initially fires up. When you go to your single player career, everything is connected to RaceNet.
Ooh.
And every time you go to anything, it has to load and talk to RaceNet.
Yeah.
So if you have internet problems, or if they have internet problems, or they have server problems, you are effed. You cannot play your single player career if it cannot communicate with the server. Doesn't matter what the reason is. I got in there. I was looking at the garage just to see what it was like. Got back out, started to try to do something again. Just sat there. Connecting to RaceNet. Connecting to RaceNet. It was like, I noticed it when I first hopped into the career mode. I was like, that's weird. Why would it need to connect now? I'm not doing anything online. And then as I continued, it got worse and worse. And if it can't connect, it kicks you back to the main menu.
Whoa.
You don't even, if you have no internet, you don't get to touch your single player career.
That's really not cool.
No, it's not. And so I put out a tweet last night. I was like, this is really a bizarre decision. Actually, it's really not a smart decision. Why on earth did you do this? Well, they never responded to me, but they responded to somebody else later and said that because the community, and this is a tweet, you can find it, because the community was having issues with cheating in the first dirt rally, they doubled down on this aspect, and now you have to connect to RaceNet in order for it to validate you. And I sat there and went, that is the stupidest thing I've heard. Number one, you're holding the community hostage. Number two, you're blaming them for the problem. Why don't you guys fix your stuff so that's not the issue? Number three, why did you do that in single player? You know who implemented this better was SLRE, the Sebastian Loeb game. If it couldn't connect, so when you're playing single player and you do a stage, it's going to try to post a time. That one, if you couldn't, in Sebastian's, if you couldn't connect, it would just wait and you could continue. You can't do that. And what's even more stupid is this doesn't make any sense because I'm not posting a time. I'm just trying to go to the garage.
Right.
What does that have to do anything with being online?
Yeah. That's...
And I was so irritated. It actually killed my enjoyment last night. I was so irritated because I could not connect, and it was kicking me back to the main career menu. I was so pissed. It completely destroyed my enjoyment of the game.
Sure.
So and the other point is, if this is what you want to do, if you're trying to curb cheating, guess what? Make a different mode. Don't do that for your single player career.
Well, and who cares if anyone cheats in their single player career, so to speak? That's on them.
Well, and because they're taking those times and putting them online. I understand that, fine. But the problem is they have a time trial mode for that specific reason.
Well, and how about...
So you have this mode time trial over here that's separate from single player, yet I don't understand.
Well, how about I don't want to be mandatory that my single player lap times post to RaceNet. Maybe I'm embarrassed by my lap times and I don't want my name on the board with my just trying to get through it so I can see it lap times, you know, and then all of a sudden my friends list is like, oh, look at how bad Shaun is at rally. He's, you know, it's like, I don't know. It just seems like, I mean, one, for it to not be able to let you play, and two, it's like, well, that's kind of an invasion of my privacy to an extent to post my lap times without my consent. I guess my consent is by doing it, but I mean, my willingness is more what I mean.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with them collecting data to find out where I'm at. You know, I understand that. That's, to a degree, I'm going to side with them. That's smart business to find out where people are playing. And like, you know, there's, you know, anti-piracy measure is one of the theories. And Bex is right. Dirt Rally 1 was ruined because of hackers. I totally understand that. But then make this mode separate. Don't incorporate your single player career like that.
Right.
If that's the problem you have, find an alternative. And I was so, people have reported, I have not experienced this, but people have reported literally losing all of their single player career progress because it couldn't connect and it wiped out their progression and they had to start back at ground zero. It's completely and utterly ridiculous, and it ruins, you know, if it is the anti-piracy measure, which it very well could be. Have we not learned anything from everybody else doing something like this? A, cheaters are going to cheat. B, people are going to find a way around it if they're trying to crack a copy. So I don't understand. You've just ruined the enjoyment for, I mean, you can look at all the tweets. They've got a ton of tweets now. They said they fixed it. I haven't played it since they said they fixed it. But regardless, if I even have a problem with my internet, I can't play it offline.
That means I couldn't play it. I'm nothing but internet problems right now.
Right? Well, and in fairness, you can go to the free play area. That doesn't seem to be affected. It's only when you go to your career. So, you know, Night Stalker brought up GT Sport. I complained about that with GT Sport when it came out. I think when you have a single player career, this is the wrong way to do it. Multiplayer, totally understand. Yep. Absolutely. And if you want to have these competitions, right.
And there's the line. It's a pretty easy, simple line. It's like, well, single player has nothing to do with anybody else. Why do I need to even participate at all? I should be able to unplug my internet, turn on single player career mode, and play the heck out of the game. Outside of any updates or things that I might want. But, I mean, that's kind of one of the things for me when I think of, a $50 title, so to speak. You know, those are the kind of things I want when I think of a tier 2 Simcade title. Those are the things I want. And you know, the career mode in this game is cool, and it has the extra things that come along with it, like the videos and the historic, and you know, and it's like those are the things that are often completely missed by the Sims, and why I love Simcade titles that bring that fun factor element into it.
Once I got to the rear wheel drive cars, the Group A's actually feel much better than any title I've driven. They actually have some balls to them. Usually the Group A cars are kind of tame. Group A cars actually, those were fast cars. They actually have some balls to them. And the Group B, their R5s are fun. So there's a lot of good going on there. I was just really disappointed. I was having so much fun with the title. I went through every rally location. I like all the rally locations. They actually have some decently long stages in there, I thought. The degradation seems cool. I noticed that. I noticed a little bit on tire choice. I tried some softs just to see if they would wear out. It felt like they did, but I'm not going to swear to that because I didn't get enough time.
They promote that as like, hey, with our tire thing, you're going to have to work on your tire strategy.
So I need to test that a little more. Yeah, if you run Steam in offline mode, Darren, it will not let you play.
Huh.
It will not let you play the career part.
Right.
You can go in and play the free play section, create a championship and all that. You cannot play your career when you run Steam offline. It would not, because it happened to me last night. I tried it. When that all happened, I was like, I wonder. I unplugged my internet. I made Steam go offline. Nope, you can't touch it. So it's a really unfortunate measure that they took it's an overcorrection, in my opinion. If that's the problem they were trying to correct, they went too far.
Does it reward in-game credits in the career mode, and does it not in the free play area?
That's correct.
So that would be my theory as why they did that, because I know they had a pretty big problem in Dirt Rally 1 with money hacks and people.
But
but at the same time, it doesn't really hurt anybody, in my opinion.
That's the problem. Is it doesn't matter if you're playing single player career. It doesn't matter if you get a money glitch or not. Who cares?
Yep. No, and in fact, when you're playing,
why does that matter?
And when and that's one of the things when you're playing, like even Wreckfest.
Make a better game, I'd say, if that's the problem.
Almost all single player arcade games have some kind of money hack so that you don't have to do the grind. You know, it's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to play Gran Turismo for 6 months till I can drive that fantasy Red Bull whatever car. You know, I want to play it today. There have always been those kind of hacks. And it's like, again, in single-player mode, in a game that, in my opinion, again, is not trying to be a full-blown competition sim, I don't understand why you wouldn't have those kind of things, I mean, even available. I mean, those are the kind of things I almost expect to be built into the game. Like, let's not call it a hack. Let's call it a unlocked single player mode for those who just don't have the tolerance to or the dedication. I think it's stupid to not have that.
But that's in free play.
Yeah. Free play gives you that. Yeah, sure.
You do that in free play, and that I totally get that. That's great. It's not like Dirt 4, which I got really annoyed with. I tried to do exact cars, and I didn't have cars unlocked in the career, and I couldn't play them in free play that I could figure out. I was like, this is kind of frustrating, but okay. So your free play mode, you can play all those cars. So I don't understand. I don't know. You're not hurting anything by allowing that. It's a bizarre decision. It ruined my fun with the title last night because I was really having a great time with it. I feel like this is more intuitive for me, which is, I agree, I wasn't crashing as much as I do in Dirt Rally, but I also didn't like the way Dirt Rally did some of its lateral tire deformation and physics. I thought that once the car started to slide in Dirt Rally, it continued to slide regardless of what you did. You were kind of just along for the ride. And then when you flew off of a jump, it kind of hung and it did all. For me, they corrected that. And it doesn't drive anything like Dirt 4.
So go ahead, Brandon. No, you go.
I was going to ask Billy and go, so I have 3 questions for you. And they're basically from chat. One, have you driven enough to form an opinion between Dirt Rally 2.0 and say the most recent titles like WRC 7? My second question is it worth the buy at this point?
That was
And
my question to Billy.
Yeah, my third question is, do you cover either of those two questions in your video that you're releasing today?
Yeah, before you answer that.
Yes. Sort of. It's very interesting because I need to get into the single player just to confirm a few things before I put out the video. I've got most of it put together, outlined. I just need to edit it. So what I would say is I enjoy the driving part of it, as much, if not more, than WRC7 or Dirt Rally. Because I like WRC7. A lot of people don't, but I think WRC7 and actually Dirt Rally have similar issues, but in different ways. I think they both kind of feel light at times. Dirt Rally 2.0 does not feel like that to me. So in its current state, it just depends on what's important to you. If you don't care about the RaceNet thing, and I think if you enjoyed Dirt Rally and did not enjoy Dirt 4, this is probably a good buy. If the RaceNet thing bothers you, I would wait and see if this is hard baked into the game. I don't see them changing this, but they might do things to mitigate some of the issues. That to me, that could be a deal breaker for people is if you want to play single player career, you have to connect to RaceNet. And it's not just for the times, it's just to even participate in it. And I think that is, nobody talked about that I saw.
See,
and it was very frustrating for me.
That is the sort of thing that, like, my brother is an example. He's a gamer. He's just not a sim racer. But that would be a no buy for my brother, the RaceNet issue, because he plays a good portion of his time not worried about the rest of the world, and he's, if his Xbox isn't connected to the internet, it shouldn't be an issue for him, and that would, if he caught that word, he would just straight up not buy the title. I didn't get to play quite as much as Billy, but even if I were to cite any and every flaw that I could find to the title, I think it is very much, it's one of the best rally car games that you can currently own, because we don't have a huge selection of rally car games.
Sure.
So if you're a rally car fan, to me, it's sort of like a no-brainer. It's like, because even, I'll use, any game we play as an example, but it's like, it is a quality game. It is not a full-blown sim, but it's still a lot of fun. And so, yeah, if you're a rally car fan, if you like dirt driving, if you, again, I use the Codemasters, like, this is, to me, Dirt Rally is exactly to real-life rally what F1 2018 is to Formula 1. It is like, hey, here's a really good sense of what it is like in a way that a lot of people are going to be able to play. And that also includes, and I didn't try it this way, I'm assuming it can be played quite competently with a hand controller, because of its
that's something I didn't
purpose.
Right, I didn't get to test that yet. And yes, Todd, it's for the consoles too. Everything is linked to RaceNet. Cranky Pants mentions the top 2 pinned threads on the Steam forums are in relation to RaceNet. It appears to be fixed. And like I said, I saw that they did get it fixed, but it still doesn't alleviate the issue. If you have a problem with your internet, or if they have a problem with their internet or their servers, and you're in the middle of the career, it can wipe out your progress and or prevent you from playing. So even if they fix the connectivity issues that I was having, that's great. It still doesn't excuse what they're doing. But I agree. I still think that if I had known about the RaceNet issues, I think I just wouldn't have been so taken aback. Because there's no mention. They never mentioned it in anything that they put out. I didn't, as far as I know, I didn't see any review or any streamer mention the RaceNet thing when they were doing their single player career. So
it didn't even occur to me when I did it, and it must have been logging in, but I must have had pretty good internet that day, and it just popped. Also, I was probably only of a handful of people who were actually online playing it at the time too.
And that's the thing. I don't know if it just wasn't a prevalent thing that they just didn't see it, but man, when I played and I was trying last night, it was glaring. It was just really bad, and it soured my experience. But off of that, I would probably still buy it. I enjoy the Group B cars alone sell it for me. I could not believe. See, that could be another issue for people. So I don't know. It just depends on what you want out of it, right? They had stages that were in the last game that they took out. I don't know. So
I think we might have just survived another internet hiccup right there, by the way.
Oh, did we?
Speaking of RaceNet, we might have just experienced another internet hiccup, and that could have prevented us from saving our data. Brandon.
Yes, sir.
What have you been up to this week?
I've been mending up. We talked about it last week. I had some foot issues that have been bothering me, and I kind of wanted to try and give that the best chance to heal, because I know we have an endurance race coming up here rather quick. So I got to get comfortable in the car, get to pace, and go from there. But other than that, man, not much really exciting. Not much in the racing world. Just been trying to get stuff taken care of for the show. Been reaching out to people to try and get some guests lined up. I see Gamer Muscles in the chat. I'm going to be seeing if I can get in contact with him here, see if we can get him on the show. And
we want to get him out for a rec fest too.
Oh man, I think that'd be fantastic. So, but yeah, so not a ton. But this weekend we've got our endurance stuff, trying to get everybody kind of brought together and get them broken out into car teams and going from there.
Awesome. If you are just joining the show, one big topic of the day is my internet has been a real nightmare. So again, if we do get disconnected, that will be the end of the show. And get out there, do some race, and have a great weekend. But yeah,
just hit a button.
Yeah,
so you don't have to say it every time.
It's been a crazy, crazy week. All right, there are a few other stories in the news that we'll get to, and then a few things we still want to talk about. A couple things. I don't know if you guys realize. I didn't. Billy didn't. Today is, or I guess it was yesterday, it was the 1 year anniversary of the announcement, I believe, of Assetto Corsa Competizione. So, how much a year changes things. We knew they were going to build a Blancpain GT game a year ago, and now we're in, the fourth stage of it, with the fifth stage now delayed. That's the other news topic here, is right. They have a comment to a tweet here, but they are a little delayed on the next version of Assetto Corsa. We knew about the car change, and there's some other things they were trying to implement into this, and it caused delays. I think with their rollout timeline, I don't think that's a really big deal. I mean, it's unfortunate for everybody who's waiting for it, but at the same time, it really shouldn't affect too much overall.
It got pushed back a week, and now they're indefinite on when the next patch comes out. So that's unfortunate for the people that were waiting for it.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, the whole thing on early access was a faith in the company and how much do I want to save versus wait. So I saved $20 and they're sitting on the interest for the 25 I did give them as I wait for the title to come out. That's how I look at it.
Fair enough.
What else going on out there? That's it for Assetto Corsa. What's that?
I said, no, I haven't bought it yet.
You haven't bought it yet. Still holding out.
I'm pretty impressed from what I have played with, with ACC, with how far it's, if you think about it, I mean, that was just a year ago, how far it's come in that amount of time. And obviously it's still got issues and they're still working on it, but I don't know. Last time I was on it, it was pretty good.
I've heard kind of both ends of the spectrum. Some people really, really like it, and some people really don't. I think that's more of a personal taste, I guess, in what you want out of your sim. So I'm sure it will be fine. I just, I'll wait.
Do you think in the end it will be the best GT3 cars in sim?
That I don't know about. I'm telling you, those R Factor 2 cars.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the endurance.
Those things are really. I really like Race Room as well. but you could probably convince me that ACC might be just as good, if not better, than the stuff in Race Room. R Factor 2 cars in the GT3 stuff, the new stuff they put out, those are really, really good. Like that's my new bar for a GT3 car. So I don't know.
Sorry,
Well,
I just had to write myself a note on something.
Hopefully they bring it along, because if they can create some diversity in the cars to where they at least feel different and they're somewhat intuitive, I think it'll be fantastic. And then obviously the things that we normally require, like Brad Morrison was mentioning, that hopefully they fix the AI, because it's a bit problematic right now. At most early access stuff, I see that anyway.
Sure.
Kartcraft was having problems with their AI, really aggressive. But
they are very.
Oh man, it's fun. It's pretty neat to get dive bombed like a online race sometimes. But yeah, it's when they put you in the tires, it kind of ruins it for you.
Right.
What else? Apex Online Racing launches their eSport tournament. So this is news at Autosport. So I watch over Autosport and Motorsport, which are typically until this year had always been just real life motorsport only, and now both of those, and I think they're actually one and the same, it seems. I'm not sure if they're the same company. I have a hunch they're actually the same company. But they're talking about the Apex Online Racing has announced the launch of a new eSport tournament on Codemasters F1 2018. So that, in other words, it means the only eSport in town isn't just the official one that they're doing with Formula One. But a €5,000 prize pool, so some substantial money, not record-setting money at this point in the world of eSport, but just another. That's what we're going to see. You got to look at it this way. At this point, we're already at the point where you're going to have the major leagues, the minor leagues, the pro-am leagues, and the prize pools will reflect. But, on an amateur level, you might be in a prize pool for like $5,000, whereas the big time might be paying more like 10, 20, or, endless amount of money. So, another tournament going. Good news for sim racing's growth overall.
It's impressive and amazing, all in the same time that we get all these competitions that are money. It's just like when I was growing up and we were racing the RC stuff, going back to last week, and people were getting paid to race RC cars, and people were like, "What? You can get paid to race an RC car?" Yeah, we were getting money, and there were guys like the Francis brothers and you had Gil Losi, and all these guys that were getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did. And I was just like, as a kid, I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I want to do that." And we never went that far, but this is kind of the same thing to me, where people are getting paid to race virtual cars.
Amazing.
It's impressive to think about, really. These guys are making more than I made racing real cars. I'm not kidding. The most I ever made racing a sprint car, and this was considered decent money, was I think I finished second in a big race out here on the West Coast. It wasn't World of Outlaws race. It was a regional race. And I think I got paid $2,700.
Oh, wow.
So, you can, granted, your chance for this, there's more people, so it's more difficult in a different way, I would guess. But you can make $5,000
on just another tournament. Just another tournament. This isn't,
it blows my mind. I'm like, the most I ever made was like $2,700, and dude, I gave my crew chief more like half of that.
And then the $1,350, and that's tires and fuel.
And fuel and putting tires back on the car. And I was kind of like, okay, well, there went that.
Oh man. And what a difference, we just with Assetto, we were talking about what a difference a year makes, what a difference 2 years makes in the case of eSport. 2 years ago, think back, that was just before Visa Vegas had occurred, or right around when that happened, which was kind of I'm not going to say the explosion, it was sort of the turning point for eSport and sim racing. But, you had iRacing Championship paying money. You had various tournaments that would pop up like maybe once every 18 months, like the Intel Masters or something paying $5,000. Mm-hmm. But now we're seeing monthly,
this is a normal
weekly,
thing.
Yeah, and it's just constant and reoccurring at this point, which is, you know, the big difference when Visa Vegas happened, I watched that show. We went to Vegas, did the whole thing from there. And after all of it, I'm sitting there thinking, nah, this is never going to happen again. Because A, it was too much money. B, the presentation didn't match the prize money. Because if you're giving away $1 million, and you better put on $1 million show. And they didn't. But ever since then, that was kind of the turning point in time. And now I just, like you said, it's like, even if you're not a pro, you can make some pretty decent money if you were spotting the right tournaments and had the talent to run around and score a little here, score a little there, and do it from your home.
Right? You don't have the travel expenses that I had, nothing, and it's just like, damn it. It's cool. Like, I'm glad to see stuff like this happen, even if quite possibly it's short-lived. But in iRacing, the dirt guys, they're offering prize pools that are of equal to what I was winning, and these are like constant. There's like, they keep promoting all these big races, and I'm like, there's entry fees and the whole thing, but I mean, the little bit you pay, I don't know. I'm blown away.
I never wanted a child before, but now I'm thinking I should like adopt like some 15-year-old gamer child and turn him into a sim racing pro and then retire on their winnings as his father.
Stage dad.
That's funny.
Okay, on that note, what else? Speaking eSport. Now, this is cool, and this I actually want to go a little more in depth on than just what they've said here. This is 704 Games, NASCAR Heat. Earmuffs, Billy.
Wait, I got to pull this out. Okay, now
The NASCAR Heat Pro League draft is coming soon, and you get to decide the draft order. And I got so much to say on this, funny enough. Just send a tweet with hashtag, I think that's what that little cross thing means, hashtag NASCAR Heat, and tag your favorite race team. So this is the big deal. This is the NASCAR Heat League. This is going to rival and kind of, at this point, the same prize pool as the iRacing NASCAR. But here's a couple differences that I want to point out. And, I want you guys to chime in on this as well. But just what do you read and see here in this tweet? But you get to decide the draft order. So first things first, I can't stand when they let the people vote, because I'll just use Earnhardt Jr. as my example. Oh, okay, so we'll let Earnhardt Jr. go first, right? Because isn't it just it's like fan favorites should get a nice trophy at the end of the year, and they should get 0 perks the rest of the year, because really they get the most perks out of the series they're running in anyway. But so now the fans get to vote which team will draft first and get their first pick of the best driver. They get the Ray Alfala equivalent of NASCAR Heat. The other thing I notice is, if they're letting us decide, does that mean that all of the NASCAR teams are in this one? I didn't read on, well, there is no reading on here, but...
Yeah, you've only got a little blurb there.
But in iRacing, we only had, 6 teams, and then 4, gaming teams included to that. This could literally be all of NASCAR, and that also makes me wonder if, even though the prize money might be equal, I think the iRacing season might be longer and a little tougher to win. And the Heat one could actually end up being the bigger prize, because I think it's just going to have a closer connection to real-life NASCAR somehow. I could be wrong, but this is just me kind of speculating. And, if you're one of those NASCAR eSport people, it's like, are you on the fence? Which route do you go? Do you go iRacing or do you go NASCAR Heat? And is it about the money or is it about the prestige? I don't know. Anyway, that's all I have to say on that.
Yes.
Yes.
The console obviously has a farther reach. This gets back into sim versus game versus where the money's at, and
Let me rephrase the question. Is it going to be harder to win the iRacing or the NASCAR Heat? Because as you just said, the NASCAR Heat is actually going to be open to far more people will have fought their way to the top than in iRacing.
It just depends on if you have somebody that races in a sim that decided to take this on instead. Because if you have a handful of those guys, then those guys are going to wipe the floor with everybody else. The guys that sim, that will figure out the exploits, that will go through the process just like they do in whatever sim they were dedicated to. Are you going to get a NASCAR Heat only player? It's possible. The likelihood with the amount of money that's sitting there is that's probably not realistic. So if you are on top of your game as a sim racer, you might have an easier time battling at the top. If you are just, a regular console player that maybe only plays Heat 3, I'm not saying that they can't compete with the other guys. I'm just saying it's going to be more difficult for them. In the overall scheme, the iRacing Championship is probably a little more cutthroat, I would imagine.
I think you'll have to put more time in.
Yeah, and you have guys that are all those guys, even the guys at the bottom, they're really fast. And so you have a crop of drivers in iRacing that, even though the spread seems like it's this, when you look at other sims per se, it's really like this. Right. Those guys are really close together. They're really not that far off. So I think it's a little more cutthroat, competitive wise in iRacing.
If you were the 25th ranked driver in iRacing, should you be jumping ship?
I would say yes. I would. Okay, if I was that good, and if I jumped over and just tried Heat 3 and could feel like I could figure it out fairly quick, I mean, you've got a pretty good shot.
Yeah. In
Heat 3 of winning, or at least being right at the top, where you're running 25th. It's the same difference when I was racing sprint cars, and I'm lucky up here in Northern California, we have several dirt tracks, and you either there's a couple dirt tracks that had really heavy competition, which is one of the ones that I went to. I could have won several main events by going to the other dirt tracks, but I didn't want to do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It was the same thing in karting. Yep.
Yeah. They weren't paying any better. Now, if they were paying better, then all the guys just would have moved over. But this is a little different, I think. But what I'm saying is I could have done that. Running 2nd, 5th, 10th with all the competition that I had, I could have gone and run at a different track and probably racked up, way more top 10s and top 5s and probably won some A mains. But I felt like I wasn't going to learn by doing that. So I stuck with getting basically my ass handed to me almost every week. So, for those people that struggle in sim racing, it's no different than the real world. I'm racing against guys that have 14, 20, 25 years experience, and there's no makeup for that. You just have to get in and get punished a lot to learn.
I've always enjoyed, this sounds weird, I've always enjoyed losing to people that I knew that were better than me more than winning against people that I knew that I was better than. Like, I just feel like when I'm better than the people I'm racing against and I win, I feel like I'm picking on people. And it just doesn't, it's like not very satisfying of a win versus even like a hard-fought 7th place against maybe, play ahead of 5 guys that I should never have beaten, and they're still on the track, not just because they crashed or something, but,
right, yep.
Like, to me, that just is far more satisfying. But again, there's no money at stake in my world. It's only about pride. I always go back to what Dave Cater said. Rest in peace, Dave Cater. But, we race, for the most part, our currency online is the respect we get from others. And that comes from beating them legitimately. And then that's when they start to think, hey, that guy's actually better than I am. Kudos to him. So anyway, NASCAR Heat. It's the real deal. I mean, it's, F1 2018 ESport to Formula 1 is the exact parallel of Heat 3 to NASCAR. And you think of North America, and we can all say what we want about NASCAR. That's not the point. But it's the same thing. This is the highest level of racing in North America. I mean, I hate to say it because I'm such an IndyCar fan, but NASCAR is absolutely the pinnacle of North American racing, and Heat 3 is going to end up being their ESport, I think. Just like F1 2018. But we'll see. It's still too soon to say.
So
iRacing's
weird,
in there.
Though. Don't you think it's sorry to get off topic a little bit here, guys, but don't you think it is weird that there's this push-pull between iRacing and NASCAR Heat 3? Like, NASCAR seems to be kind of courting both of them.
Yes, and like it's
Isn't
a competition between the two sims.
That's what I keep noticing is like, NASCAR says, ooh, iRacing, and then NASCAR says, ooh, Heat 3. It's just like, what's the message we're sending here?
Yeah. Or maybe it's the more the merrier, and maybe if there was a third game in town, they'd be courting them just as much.
It's very possible. I mean, maybe, you know, cast a wide a net as possible. Michael Clark.
Michael Clark.
Man.
Hell yeah, going to the race and racing beer in the race. So yeah, NASCAR. Go ahead, Brandon. Yeah.
I was gonna say, you know, with the state of the game is kind of what I'm wondering with Heat 3. What changes would it have to make? Because I've never touched the title, you know, and I know it's kind of a console, seems like a console port, or maybe an arcade, simcade side of things, you know, comparable to maybe Forza or maybe GT, which they obviously have their esport things. What changes do you think, and I think Billy's probably got the most time on it, to really give it some validity to where you could make the argument of, yeah, it stands with, let's not even say iRacing, let's say like F1 2018. You know, nobody really kind of discounts that championship because of what it involves, who's backing it, the money that's involved, the caliber of the drivers that are in it are actually really good.
Yeah. Well, and this year's attracted all the big names. It wasn't just like the console F1 drivers.
Yeah, you know, but it's still F1 2018. I mean, I can go pick it up on sale on Steam, and when it comes down to it, to me, it feels like an arcade game. Where does Heat 3 have to go to kind of reach that equivalency?
I would say, well, first I would say F1 2018 is probably the most sim it's ever been. I don't consider it too much of an arcade game. I think there are arcade elements to it, but I think it leans more heavily on the simulation side. Not to say that it can't be improved. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if we're comparing NASCAR Heat 3 and then we're comparing F1 2018, F1 2018 to me is way more sim. NASCAR Heat 3. So here's why I returned it. Steam has a policy that you got to return. If you want to do return, you got 2 hours. So now I'm like, when I buy something, I'm very mindful of that 2 hour time. So you better impress me in 2 hours. I'm serious.
Start the stopwatch.
Uh-oh.
Lost Billy's audio.
Yeah. That's Billy, not me. Audio. We can't hear you.
It's that Billy strange voice, just his mic and system was overcome by the greatness.
As Gamer Muscle put it up.
There he is.
Billy Radio Voice Strange is back.
Yep.
That was interesting. Now I'm having... Anyway. But what you have to do is you have to cater... You've got to make sure you draw your audience in 2 hours. And then after that, it gets further. So I played NASCAR Heat, and it just never did anything for me. I felt like, you know... People's like, well, you have to mess with the setups. And I don't understand the idea of not having a setup out of the box that's going to play well. But what I played, it just didn't feel good. And so they need to revamp their physics. I think the graphics, more specifically the lighting engine that they're using is odd. Brandon mentioned something about DCS. What was it?
Kind of the atmospheric particles, kind of the haze that you see, which you kind of get in real life. You know, you look out across the horizon and
this just seems to be more prevalent. Now, they did do better than Heat 2 or the original Heat. I preferred Heat 2. I actually liked that game for what it's worth. Heat 3 just went the wrong direction for me, and just things felt messed up. When I tried to take iRacing, I'm not saying iRacing is perfect, but in the stock car world, I would say iRacing is probably one of the closest that you could get to what a stock car or a truck is supposed to feel like. And after having done the Simpit series and all this, I tried to compare apples to apples, the same tracks and stuff. The tracks don't feel the same. The handling definitely isn't the same. I felt like I was running on 50-lap old tires from iRacing in Heat 3. There was just no feeling to the truck. They still look goofy. They move through the corner funny. There's like a whole revamping of their system that I think has to happen for them to be taken seriously by the sim world. Plus, I think the way to get notoriety, like F1 2018, is to have some of those real-world sim guys start competing, and this might do it. Even though the game is not what we would consider legit, this might help legitimize NASCAR Heat 3 with the prize pool that's at stake.
Yeah, show me the money.
You know, Devin brought up a point, getting back to the courting both sides, and then somebody else chimed in with a similar thought. But I don't know if this would work amongst the companies. It would take a lot of arranging. But is there any way that we could see NASCAR Heat being like the nationwide or like the minor league, and that iRacing would become the Cup Series, or the you go from Heat 3 to iRacing? I mean, again, I don't see that cooperation happening between 704 and
Right.
First Racing, or but it, or will it even be just perceived that way? So
No. Anything, I hate to say this, if anything, especially if this particular championship works for Heat 3, it'd be the other way around.
Yep.
Because it's going to be where the money and the prestige is at. And if NASCAR isn't elevating one or the other themselves, then what's left to decide?
Yeah. Oh, shoot. I almost pulled mine out. Yeah, I agree. I happen to agree. I mean, I don't know. Again, shots fired. I still need to get that ready for us because we seem to do it plenty. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think a lot of iRacing people will be very disappointed to grasp that thought. But, just like F1 2018, Formula One didn't bother courting iRacing to be the Formula One. Well, obviously they don't have the content, but it's like, no, it was straight to the one that was for the masses, not for the hardcore. That somebody else had, I stole that, by the way. I didn't, but somebody else had typed that in. But it's like, yeah, right now I think ESport to NASCAR, ESport to Formula One is a marketing opportunity. That's all it really is.
Correct.
And so it's an investment to
they don't
capture
care
an
if it's
audience.
simulation or not.
They want the masses. If I'm going to pay for it, it's bang for buck. It's view per penny, right? That's what we're doing. That's what they're doing. So they pay $100,000. I don't know where the money came from, but let's just say they put out $100,000 to get the naming rights. We get this, and with it, we get the console, the Xbox, the PlayStation, and the PC players, versus iRacing, where I get the PC only hardcore group. So if I'm in marketing and I'm writing the check, that's how I have to think.
It's a business thing, and as much as we as sim racers want our sims to be taken seriously and put at the forefront, we still have an inherent problem that our audience is limited.
Yep.
And especially if you talk about an iRacing, not only is it PC, it's got paywall gates up the you-know-what. So that even further limits iRacing. And so that double whammy, I think, does not do them favors in this instant. So we'll see. I don't want Heat 3 to fail. I just want it to be good. I want to see improvements. So hopefully when they do Heat 4, do like the guy Killitson in WRC games, keep pushing that simulation aspect, keep going more that direction. I don't think you'll alienate the console players. Just imagine if, and we talk about processing power and all that. I understand. But just think if you could push it that direction where we could have some really nice simulation values in something like that, what that would do.
Yep.
I don't know.
I maintain hope. I hope that it, will work out as far as the esports side of things, because we all know that series is struggling, just like every motorsport pretty much in the world is. So hopefully that helps bring some popularity to that side of things. And then maybe with, if we do get some infusion of guys that are coming from the more sim side of things, if you get like a Conti or an Alfala or a Fayash or any of those guys that are known in the oval sim racing side of things, they come in there and they go, I mean, yeah, we can do this, and thanks for the payday, but if you guys kind of fix these things that are wrong to make it more simulation, it'll give more validity to your titles. So, you never know. I got my fingers crossed. I'm holding out hope for that.
For me, this is the economics behind it. I think sometimes I come off as though I'm fearful of esport too, because I say, oh, it's going to crap on things that have been sacred for so long, right? And I guess this is just the economics behind it. So, in my mind, just give you kind of how it's like someone like Ray Fallon, a 4-time champion of iRacing, arguably the hardest esport competition there is to win. The guy wins it 4 times, I was going to say in a row. It wasn't in a row, but 4 times. Mm-hmm. And, it's like unless if Heat 3 wins that war, if it is a war, we don't know that it is. We're just speculating to the future. But he could be the 4-time champion who's forgotten in the world of esport because Joe Blow won the Heat 3 championship, and now that is the limelight. So I guess that's when I say that's where my fear of how it will take what has been normal to us and push it aside. But the marketing aspect to the masses is the economics behind how and why that would happen. And a very obvious choice that if I was in control, I would make the same choice. As a sim racer, I don't enjoy it, but understanding, business, of course. Is that it on that topic?
I think so. It kind of opens up some other topics we could go into. I don't know if you guys want to go into it this week, and I have something that I wanted to bring up from last week. So, Billy, are you good on Heat 3?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess we can touch on this from last week. It was brought up that for something to be a simulation, you shouldn't be able to use a gamepad or a hand controller. And I kind of... Personally, I take issue with that. And I'm kind of curious about your guys' input on this, is the fact that what is that parallel? We're trying to simulate real-life race car driving here. And there's been kind of surge lately, and we saw this a lot with Daytona and in the recent years of people with, disabilities or have suffered life-changing injuries like Alex Zanardi. He was at Daytona. He used hand controls. He doesn't use his feet to operate